All right, welcome back, folks. You're listening to TalkNetwork.com, an interview with Liam Scheff, and we're talking about Charlie Sheen and the revelations that he is, at least according to the National Enquirer, HIV positive, and has been hiding that fact for at least 4 years while having who knows how many hundreds of sex partners during that time. Liam Scheff is an expert on AIDS and HIV and all things related to viral cover-ups, you might say. I've interviewed him before about the CDC. And he's skeptical of the entire AIDS industry and how it operates and the lack of real scientific basis of HIV testing. We left off in the last segment. I was asking you at some point about AZT, Liam. Do you want to continue on that point? And then I want to ask you about how much money is actually being made by the AIDS industry.
Let's run through the drugs. So they have the fake test that don't test for anything. They have the gay population in the early 80s, and they're telling them that they have a sex disease. So the gay population reels in its behavior a little bit, frankly, and is a little more mindful, and the death rate goes down from some 16,000 to maybe 12,500 across a few years. So by 1986, the death rate was declining due to people paying more attention. 1987, I hope I get that right. The FDA approves a drug called AZT, Zidovudine. This had been a drug that was going to be used as a chemotherapy drug, but the problem is it was so deadly they couldn't approve it. It kills bone marrow. It kills the liver just outright. So how did they approve a drug like this? They ran a trial called the Concord trial. And in the trial, out of 172 people taking the drug, 169 of them died.
Jeez.
So they put that on the market.
What is that, like a 98.5% death rate or something?
Right. So they dropped that into the market. The death rate then goes from 12,500 in 86, 87. By, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93. So what is that? 5-6 years later, the death rate is approaching 50,000 gay men dying per year who are on AZT. AZT was prescribed in gram and a half, 1,500 milligram doses. It was prescribed as soon as you were HIV positive. People died in weeks. Keith Haring took an HIV. They made knockoff drugs, so that they could expand the line. They would change one tiny part of the molecule so they could call it something different. He took an HIV knockoff, died. Freddie Mercury was on that, died. Arthur Ashe took it and died. I think Rock Hudson took it and died. Who else? It said Freddie Mercury. Who else? Ryan White, the 12-year-old hemophiliac, went on AZT and died. Big surprise, AZT stops your body from producing blood cells. They gave this drug to a kid who couldn't produce blood cells, and he died. And then we were told that everybody could die from AIDS. Yeah. The death rate got up to close to 50,000, 45 to some 50,000 by 1994. The protests, the gay community, the activist community was doing die-ins in front of the NIH. You're killing us with your AZT is worse than the disease.
Yeah.
So AZT was knocked down to 100 or 200 milligrams from 1,000 or 1,200 milligrams and mixed into what they called the cocktail. And guess what happened? The death rate went back down to what it was before they introduced AZT.
Gee, that's right there. That's almost like a demographic trial. I mean,
they killed 250,000 gay men, but it was a murder-suicide because the gay men took the drugs. They said, okay, we need a treatment. We agree with you that we have a sex disease. Not that we might be slightly more considerate in our approach to sex and not take all these drugs while having them, but we have a sex disease. We're totally out of control in any other way, and just give us the drugs. And then they die, and then they say, you've murdered us. And then they put in new drugs that cause lipodystrophy and all the other fat wasting, and it's a nightmare.
Well, just to interject this as an important point here for those who are listening and who are skeptical, remember that statin drugs have been aggressively pushed by the mainstream medical system for many, many years. It's come out that they're extremely toxic. They accelerate aging. They cause senility. They cause you to lose your memory and contribute to dementia. They cause muscle atrophy. They cause fatigue. I mean, statin drugs are poison, and those have been pushed for a very long time. And you can go on down the list. Chemotherapy causes cancer.
What about DDT?
It's the main side effect.
What about DDT? What about arsenic on apples?
Sure.
It's America.
Yeah, lead arsenic as a pesticide, and now glyphosate, which causes hormone disruption in the body, contributes to breast cancer. I mean, yeah, go on down the list.
What mercury fillings? What about mercury in vaccines?
Exactly.
I guess I don't. Skepticism. All you have to do is read the package insert, and the package insert for AZT says causes all of the diseases associated with AIDS. I mean, it says.
That's right.
It says the symptoms from this drug may be indistinguishable. They're all black box label drugs, meaning all AIDS drugs are black box label drugs, meaning they've killed adults at normal prescribed doses.
Yes. And black box warnings, for those listening, are special FDA warnings that are required on drugs that have an especially high fatality rate.
Yeah. So how much money do they make from this business is a question you asked me. And
that's right. How much? It's got to be billions, right? But how many billions?
It's 1983 to now. And, Dave Rasnick, a really good chemist who's been on this for a long time, was compiling these numbers, and he last I recall, and it's a loose memory, it was somewhere in the 150 billion or 200 something billion dollars. But so I went online, what do AIDS drugs cost per year? So let's see, the cost of any of these drugs is between 600 for 60 pills to 1,400 for 30 pills. To 2,600 for 120 pills. You're usually taking 2 or 3 pills at a time. That's probably
so we're talking like 10 to 20,000 a year.
10 to 20,000 a year.
So that means Charlie Sheen has just made billions for the drug industry.
Yes, he has.
If everybody he's had sex with goes out and starts buying AZT, and then of course they're going to show the symptoms, and then it's the media is going to say, "See, they all got AIDS too. Look, they're deteriorating."
But they won't do it. A lot of them won't do it. And here's what's going to be strange. I remember when this guy in Seattle was accused of spreading HIV, and I said the same thing then. I said the tests don't work. So he had sex with some of the people in his community, sexual community, like 100-something times, and they were the ones who were always negative. And then there was they got some girl who he had sex with once, and they said that she was positive. And you said, "Wait a second, sorry, me in the back. Yeah, I have a question. Did you say he had sex with somebody 200 times and they're negative, and sex with somebody once and they're positive? I don't think this is a sex disease. Let me have a look at these tests again, because the girl who was positive probably had been pregnant or had a high antibody count due to vaccines or had a cold or a flu or had been a milkmaid at some point."
Yeah.
So don't take HIV tests. They should be criminalized. They're against all scientific morality and technical ability to produce any real result. I think they should be outlawed.
There's a group out there called OMSJ, the Office of Medical and Scientific Justice. They have been able to successfully argue the evidence in a court of law. Many, many times they've been able to prove the innocence of many people.
Military court. In military
court.
Yeah, even in military court, they had HIV, people who were accused of being HIV positive, they went forward with exactly what I said, exactly what I've been saying here, simply the specifics of HIV testing data from the standard medical literature approved of by the psychopaths in charge. And they said, look, it says that this is not a test for anything. It says that this is a non-specific antibody test. It says that the PCR test you're using is even worse and can't be used to diagnose anybody. And the jury or whoever sits there and goes, I guess you're right. We we want to convict this guy because we want to be on a moral high horse about stuff. We don't like him. But yeah, he didn't knowingly spread anything because the tests don't prove that he was ever infected with anything.
So it seems like the only people who get convicted and thrown in jail for being HIV positive and, quote, willingly infecting others with HIV are people who just don't have a good legal defense team. The evidence never comes up. Everybody just buys the official story, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen won't go to jail. He'll probably be, I mean, if it's true that he's positive, he'll probably be dead in a couple of years because they'll force him onto the drugs. He'll be swamped by, and I don't hope that, but he'll be swamped by hundreds of lawsuits. If this, he'll be swamped by hundreds of lawsuits. Then all of these pretty starlets will go and get tested. And some of them will know that the tests are crap. And some of them will go to a doctor and say, it's okay, honey, I'll test you on all they have to do is change the spectrophotometer reading just a little bit, or say that, you're a little bit in the gray and I'm going to call you a false negative. That's all you have to do. It's just so easy. You're a false negative. Sorry, you're not really positive.
But isn't it true that many people who would, let's say, have sex with Charlie Sheen are probably not, they're not very discriminatory in their sex partners or even lifestyle decisions, right?
Well, he's at a career trajectory, so we don't know. He used to be more respectable, so.
But I mean, wouldn't these people, many of them, his sex partners, wouldn't they possibly have engaged in other very, very risky lifestyle behaviors as well, or be drug users themselves, and thus they may show, quote, symptoms of poor health or immune deficiency? Right?
Yeah, but so would an autistic kid who'd been injected with the MMR vaccine, and it's like right. We're all pretty much under the gun these days. I mean, everybody rolls the dice. You go to the Walmart and buy groceries, and you're eating glyphosate.
So would you rather have sex with Charlie Sheen or be injected with MMR? That's my question. What's your choice?
If you're really being honest.
If you're stranded on an island with Charlie Sheen
and
a vaccine pusher, which one would you go for?
This is the most uncomfortable question I've ever been asked, and I've been asked many uncomfortable questions. Let me answer in the negative. I would never allow anybody to inject my body with a poison.
Okay, all right. That's kind of a cop-out.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, I don't mean to make light of this. Well, I guess I do actually, because some of it's so ridiculous. I mean, who would move to Hollywood and have sex with Charlie Sheen anyway? And why are these lifestyles seemingly celebrated in Hollywood and across the media? It's just sickening to me that these lifestyles go on. And I'm talking about. I'm not anti-gay, by the way. People, I think, are free to do whatever they want. I'm talking about just the crazy drug abuse and, sex as sport, like you said. It just seems insane to me.
It's probably not very satisfying as an emotional position. I don't take a moral position on it, because I think that it's hopefully it's a place that people pass through and grow up, and say, I want to have meaningful relationships. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. This is TalkNetwork.com, and check out Liam Scheff's book, Official Stories. Thank you for listening, and stay safe. Practice safe sex. Be healthy. Probably good advice. And don't be Charlie Sheen's sex partner anyway. Okay. Take care, everybody.